Good morning, children.
Good morning, ma'am.
So, we are going to start a new topic today, and the topic is about some building blocks in the body of living organisms. Children, you might have noticed that when a construction is going on, when the construction of a house or some building is going on, the workers they will arrange bricks or stones in a peculiar way or in a peculiar manner, and in between they'll be keeping or fixing it with the help of concrete. And that is how, by arranging these bricks or stones in a particular fashion, they will arrange it so that they construct the building. So you can call, if it is made of bricks, you can call it as, these bricks are the building blocks of that particular building or house. Similarly, a body is also made up of some building blocks. Not only our body, the body of all living organisms are made up of such building blocks. I know you can say about which building blocks I'm speaking about. What are they?
Cells.
Cells. And all living organisms are made up of cells. There can be differences in the number of cells. Depending upon the size of an organism, there can be differences in the number of cells. But all living organisms are made up of cells. If it is a living organism, definitely it will be made up of cells. The number will definitely vary. So we are going to learn more about cell, the components of cell, their functions in this chapter. So a chapter is, the name of a chapter is Cell, the Unit of Life. You know that cell is a fundamental, structural, and functional unit of all living organisms. All living organisms are made up of cell. Cell can be considered as the fundamental, structural, and functional unit of all living organisms. All living organisms are made up of cells. Definitely the number of cells differ, but all of them are made up of cells. And here you can see, or in the next slide, you're going to see some important landmarks in the study of cells. In class 8, you might have learned about these scientists and their contribution to cytology. Robert Hooke, he is the person who discovered cells for the first time. And at that time, it was in 1665. So when he was observing the cells for the first time, there was no sophisticated microscope as we have today. There was a very simple, an improvised microscope, a very simple magnifying device. It has got its limits for magnification. So with the help of that, he observed a piece of cork slice, cork, C-O-R-K, taken from the bark of the tree. Cork cells, you have learned already, these are made up of dead cells. So he observed dead cells for the first time. Robert Hooke observed cork cells, dead cells for the first time. And the year was 1665. And many years later, another scientist, Anton von Leeuwenhoek, he was the one who observed living cells for the first time. He took a sample of pond water and he observed living cells in that. And by the time the microscope was a little more advanced, not very highly sophisticated, but still it was an improved microscope when compared to that used by our Robert Hooke. And these are two very important landmarks in the study of cells or in the history of cells. So cells were discovered by Robert Hooke, and when he observed these cells, cork slice, actually he took very thin slice of cork and he observed it under the microscope, a very simple type of magnifying device. And what he found inside was some partitioned boxes. As you can see in the picture, some partitioned boxes or some compartments which are separated by some walls or partitions, you could see. And it was resembling a honeycomb, similar to a honeycomb. You have seen a honeycomb, so many hexagonal structures you can see all are joined together. So similarly, when he observed the cork slice also, he got the same picture. So many partitioned boxes or compartments. So each box or compartment was separated by a wall or a partition. And he coined the term cell. And he coined the term cell, or these structures were called cell by Robert Hooke. My voice is breaking, children, only for Nidhi or for others? Is my voice breaking?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Nidhi, maybe some problem over there. Later, compound and electron microscopes were discovered, and it revealed the structural details of the cell. So in the beginning, what Robert Hooke or Anton von Leeuwenhoek, they could just observe these cells. But the components of the cell, the details, the structural details, the different organelles of the cell and all, they could not discover with the limited magnifying power of the microscope. But later, with the advancement in science and technology, we could develop our new microscopes, compound and electron microscopes with high magnification power were discovered, were invented, and this led to the revelation of the structural details. So the structural details they could learn. So it is with the help of these microscopes, because they had better magnifying capacity, and hence the structural details were revealed, or we could learn more about the structure of the cell. Now moving on to the next slide, cell theory. This you might have learned in class 8 or 9, you have learned definitely about cell theory. The two scientists, eminent scientists behind cell theory were Schleiden and Schwann. Matthias Schleiden and Theodor Schwann. So these two put forward the cell theory. Matthias Schleiden, in 1838, he observed that plants are made up of cells. He found out that all plants are made up of cells. And later in 1839, Theodor Schwann, he reported that the cells had a thin covering. That is plasma membrane. You know that all cells are covered by a plasma membrane. They have got a covering known as plasma membrane. And he also found that in plant cells, there is an additional layer known as cell wall. All cells are having plasma membrane, and plant cells are having cell wall in addition to plasma membrane. So those were the findings of Theodor Schwann. And he proposed a hypothesis that animals and plants are made up of cells and products of cells. So he concluded that all plants and animals are composed of cells and products of cells. Matthias Schleiden was the one who found out that plants are made up of cells. But later, the presence of plasma membrane as well as cell wall were found out by Theodor Schwann, and he concluded, he proposed that plants and animals are composed of cells and products of cells. Later, in 1855, many years later, Rudolf Virchow, he just modified the cell theory. He explained that cells divided and new cells are formed from the pre-existing cells. Already cells are there. Some cells are already there. They will undergo division. And it is from the pre-existing cells that new cells are being formed. Omnis cellula is cellula, which means that all cells arise from pre-existing cells. The cells undergo division and form new cells. And including this point, he modified the cell theory. Now, the two main points of cell theory are all living organisms are composed of cells and products of cells, and all cells arise from pre-existing cells. So I'll repeat the points again. So The cell theory is a product of the contributions of three scientists, Matthias Schleiden, Theodor Schwann, and Rudolf Virchow. In the beginning, cell theory was put forward by Schleiden and Schwann. So it was these two scientists who found out that plants and animals are made up of cells and products of cells, and even the presence of a plasma membrane and cell wall were found out. But later, Rudolf Virchow added one more point. He modified the cell theory. He found out that the cells are arising from already existing cells. Omnis cellula e cellula. Cells arise from pre-existing cells. So, compiling all these points, the cell theory is stated as all living organisms are composed of cells and products of cells. All cells arise from pre-existing cells. Okay. Now, an overview of a cell. All cells contain cytoplasm and also ribosome. So all cells contain cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a semi-fluid jelly-like substance where the different activities of the cell, the different chemical reactions take place, which keeps the cell in the living state. So always some reactions, some activities should go on in the cell. If it doesn't happen, then the cell will become dead. So to keep the cell in the living state, different chemical reactions and cellular activities are taking place. So the site for these activities is cytoplasm, the semi-fluid matrix. Then ribosomes. These are also another important structure. It's a cell organelle. Already you have learned what are organelles, the minute structures, the small structures present in the cell, each with a specific function. Ribosomes are non-membrane bound organelles. Usually you have learned in eukaryotes, they have membrane bound organelles. But ribosomes are unique in the sense that they don't have any membrane covering. And you can find them in different places, not limited to any particular region. You can find them freely scattered in the cytoplasm. Or it can be found inside chloroplast, mitochondria, or you can find them attached to rough endoplasmic reticulum, making its surface very rough. 9th standard you have learned. So once again, all cells contain cytoplasm. What is the significance of cytoplasm? Cytoplasm is a semi-fluid matrix, a semi-fluid matrix where the different cellular activities, chemical reactions, etc. will take place. And all these reactions and activities will keep the cell in a living state. Then about ribosomes. What is special about ribosomes? They don't have any membrane covering it. Hope you are remembering what you have learned about ribosomes. Anybody is remembering the function of ribosome? They are the sites of some function or some process. Anybody is remembering?
Protein, right?
Oh,
Protein, rough.
yes, exactly. They are the sites of protein synthesis. Protein manufacture takes place in these ribosomes. They are non-membrane bound and you can find them in different locations, cytoplasm or in the organelles like chloroplast, mitochondria, and in rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now, next is about a comparison among the different types of cells. The smallest cell are mycoplasmas, 0.3 μm in length. Hope you are remembering mycoplasma. Have you learned about mycoplasma?
Bacteria.
Classification comes under or it's a type of bacteria. What are the unique features?
They are anaerobic.
They are anaerobic and they don't have
Cell wall.
cell wall. They lack cell wall and they can survive in the absence of oxygen. And the largest isolated single cell, egg of ostrich. Egg of all birds are single cell, but the ostrich egg is bigger in size. So that is the largest single cell, which you can see with your naked eyes. The longest cell, The longest cell is nerve cell. Size of a bacteria is 3 to 5 μm. So mycoplasma also, it's a special type of bacteria. Then human RBCs, just a comparison between the size. Human RBC 7 μm in diameter. Egg of ostrich is 170 into 130 millimeter. That is the size of the egg of ostrich. And this is a comparison between the different sizes of cells. Smallest cell is mycoplasma, and the longest is nerve cell. Some of the nerve cell can come up to 1 meter in length. Okay, is it clear? Are you following?
Yes, ma'am.
Then size of bacteria ranges between 3 to 5 μm, and human RBC, it is almost 7 μm in diameter. And based on the function, you can see different shape of cells, or the shape of the cells will be different. They can come in different shapes depending upon the function they have to perform. So based on the function they are performing, they have different shape. They can be disc shape, polygonal, columnar, cuboid, thread-like, or irregular shapes. So cells come in different shapes. And cells can be categorized into two types: prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. So cells, based on the type of nucleus they have, based on the nuclear region or based on the type of nucleus, you can categorize cells into two types: prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. And regarding the shape, I told you they can come in different shapes. It can be disc-like, polygonal, columnar, cuboid, thread-like, or irregular. And the function and the shape will be closely related. The shape will be in such a way so as to suit the function it has to perform. For example, nerve cell. Nerve cell has to transmit the messages from one part of the body to the other. So if it is very short and compact, the purpose cannot be served. So they are very long. And epithelial cells, their role is to cover the body or cover the internal organs and provide protection. So if it is in some other shape, this cannot be, that purpose cannot be served. They are flat cells, mostly unilayered, and some you have learned about stratified epithelium in the skin. They come in different layers to provide protection. So the shape of the cell is very closely related to the function it has to perform. Okay, so quickly summarize what we revised, what we learned so far. Nevin, just start.
About the cells thing, right? Robert Hooke first observed
what?
a cell.
A cell is the
Basic building blocks.
basic blocks. Any other explanation I gave, Punya? They are the fundamental
Fundamental functional and structural units
of all living organisms. And name those three scientists who put forward the cell theory. Rijas?
Rudolf Virchow, Schleiden, and Schwann.
Okay. What was the contribution of Rudolf Virchow, Steffi? What was his contribution? He suggested that.
Modified the cell theory.
What was the
He suggested that the new cells arise from the old cells.
pre-existing cells? Okay. And what is the role of Robert Hooke? What did he find out? Naureen?
He discovered cell, and he discovered the dead cells.
He observed dead
Thin
cells.
slice of crow.
And what did Anton von Leeuwenhoek observe for the first time? Lydia?
He discovered living cell.
Living cells. So he was the one who observed living cells for the first time. State the cell theory. Sania, state the cell theory.
All cells arise from the cells pre-existing cells, and all living organisms are composed of cells or the products of cells.
All plants and animals are composed of cells and products of cells, and all cells arise from pre-existing cells. So let us continue. Now, prokaryotic cells. So before we proceed to prokaryotic cells, already you have learned in class, from class 8th standard, you have learned the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Class 9 you have learned. Who will tell me the difference, main difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells? Nandana, tell me what is the main difference?
The nucleus is well defined in eukaryotic cells, but in prokaryotic cells it is not.
What do you mean by the term well defined?
There is a nuclear membrane and all the it is well defined. All the nucleic acids are
Well
well.
defined nuclear membrane, or else you can say nucleus is well defined. What about prokaryotes?
It does not have a nuclear membrane.
And do you remember what do you call such a nuclear region without a nuclear membrane and just some nucleic acids? Anybody is remembering what do you call an undefined nuclear region containing only nucleic acids? Evelyn, are you remembering? Do you remember? No. Anybody? In 9th standard you have learned an undefined nuclear region containing only nucleic acids is known as dash. Nobody is remembering. Starting with the N only, ending with the D.
Nucleoid.
Yes, correct, Michael. Nucleoid. You call it as nucleoid. What is a nucleoid? An undefined nuclear region containing only nucleic acid, no nuclear membrane. So first we will learn about prokaryotic cells. So prokaryotic cells are those cells where the nucleus is undefined or where the nucleus is not covered by a membrane. They don't have membrane bound nucleus or organelles. Even the organelles are without a membrane. They include bacteria, blue-green algae, mycoplasma, and PPLO, pleuropneumonia-like organisms. Actually, mycoplasma and pleuropneumonia, they are more or less the same. Okay, and these are type of particular genus of bacteria. So all these bacteria, blue-green algae, mycoplasma, all of them come under prokaryotic cells. They are generally smaller. If you compare with the eukaryotic cells, they are smaller in size and they are capable of multiplying rapidly. They can multiply and increase their number within a short span of time. They differ in their shape and size. They show so much of diversity in their shape and size. So here you can see the picture of different types of bacteria. Bacillus, Coccus, Vibrio, Spirillum. So as you can see in the figure, Bacillus is a rod shape, Coccus is spherical, Vibrio is comma shape, and Spirillum spiral shape. I'll repeat the points once again. Prokaryotic cells, they don't have any membrane bound nucleus or organelles. Small in size, whereas they multiply rapidly when compared to eukaryotic cells. They differ in their shape and size. And bacteria, for example, I told you they differ in their shape and size. Bacteria is a typical example for prokaryotic organisms. They come in different shapes and the different shapes include rod shape. You call such bacteria as bacillus. So when you hear lactobacillus, you can understand from the name that it is a rod-shaped bacteria. Coccus is spherical, Vibrio coma shape, Spirillum spiral shape, Vibrio cholerae, Pneumococcus, Streptococcus. So from the name itself, you will understand. You will get an idea regarding its shape. Once again, Bacillus, Coccus, Vibrio, Spirillum. These are the different shapes of bacteria. Now moving on to the cell organelles. So cell organelles are the small structures, minute structures present within the cell, inside the cell. Cell envelope, that is a covering of the cell. So inside the cell, you will find mesosome and chromatophores, nucleoid, flagella, pili and fimbriae, ribosomes, inclusion bodies. So these are the different types of different components of a cell. Cell envelope. This we are speaking about a prokaryotic cell. There are differences when we come to eukaryotic cell. So in a prokaryotic cell, the different components include cell envelope, mesosome and chromatophores, nucleoid, flagella, pili and fimbriae, ribosomes and inclusion bodies. So we'll start with the first one, cell envelope. Cell envelope is a chemically complex protective covering. It's a protective covering which covers the contents inside and protects the organism. It's a very complex, it is having a complex structure, chemically complex protective covering. And it has got 3 layers. So this complex covering or envelope is made up of 3 layers: glycocalyx, cell wall and plasma membrane. You're familiar only with the 2 layers in eukaryotes, cell wall and plasma membrane. Here one more layer is there. You call it as glycocalyx. Let's see what is meant by glycocalyx. It's the outermost layer. Glycocalyx is the outermost layer. Its composition and thickness differs. So depending upon the bacteria, depending upon the organism, the composition and the thickness can be different. It may be a slime layer forming a loose sheath, or it can be a thick and tough capsule. So depending upon the organism, their composition and thickness can be different. Either it can be a loose sheath, then it will be in the form of a slimy layer. At the same time, it can even form a thick and tough capsule. Either forms a thick and tough capsule or a slimy loose sheath, depending upon the organism. So that was about glycocalyx. I'll show it once again. Outermost layer, composition and thickness can differ. Either it can be a slimy loose sheath or a thick and tough capsule. There comes the next layer, cell wall. It forms the middle layer. You can find them in prokaryote. All prokaryotes you can find. And it is the cell wall that gives shape to the cell. The cell gets that rigid shape, or it gives rigidity to the cell, gives shape and structural support. Support and shape is provided by cell wall, and it prevents the bacteria from bursting or collapsing. So it is the cell wall that gives them rigidity and support, prevents it from getting collapsed or bursting. Okay, so that was about cell wall in prokaryotes, and the innermost layer is plasma membrane. Just like in eukaryotes, this is semi-permeable membrane. You know what is meant by semi-permeable membrane? Because it has got limited permeability, it will allow only selected substances to pass through it and interacts with the outside. It's semi-permeable in nature and interacts with the outside, because anything which enters the cell has to pass through this particular membrane. It is structurally similar to that found in eukaryotes. So in structure, it is very much similar to that found in eukaryotes. So that was about the different layers. So any doubt? So we'll just quickly see what we covered now. We saw the different components of a cell in prokaryotes. Just a minute, children. Cell envelope, mesosome and chromatophores, nucleoid, flagella, pili and fimbriae, ribosomes, and inclusion bodies. We started with the cell envelope. It's a chemically complex protective covering, and it is made up of 3 layers: glycocalyx, cell wall, and plasma membrane. We started with the glycocalyx. It's the outermost layer. Its composition as well as thickness can be different. Composition and thickness can differ with the bacterium. Either it can form a slimy loose layer or a thick and tough capsule. The middle layer is cell wall. Cell wall provides it shape and support and prevent it from collapsing. You can find this layer in all prokaryotes. Moving on to the third one, that is plasma membrane. It's the innermost layer, and this layer is similar to that found in eukaryotes. It's semi-permeable. It will not allow all the substances to pass through it, and any substance entering the cell should pass through plasma membrane, so it interacts with outside. So those were the points about cell envelope. Any doubt? Any doubt? Just quickly summarize. Gayatri, what are the 3 layers of cell envelope?
Glycocalyx and cell, glycocalyx, cell wall, and plasma membrane.
Plasma membrane. Vidur, tell me about glycocalyx.
Their outermost layer,
Layer
its composition and thickness vary from different bacteria.
can differ. Which are the 2 forms I said? It can
Slime or slime layer,
slimy layer, or it can form a
capsule,
which is very thick and tough. Then, what do you know about the cell wall? Malavika, tell me about the cell wall.
It is the middle layer. It
Middle
is seen in all prokaryotes and it gives structural support. It gives structural support.
Gives structural support and also
prevent the bacterium from collapse.
Shape, support, and prevent it from collapsing or bursting. Which is the innermost layer? Evelyn, innermost layer?
Plasma membrane.
Plasma membrane. Tell me the features.
It is similar to that of the eukaryotes.
Yes. Then
it is semi-permeable in nature and interacts with the outside.
It is semi-permeable and interacts with outside. Okay, thank you, children. Hope you don't have any doubts. Thank you, children. See you next class.